Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. My name is Griffin. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at AllDayPackers, and I'm joined today by my co-host Bron. You can follow him on Instagram at LamboLeapers, and making his return to the podcast, Mason. You can follow him on Instagram and Twitter at PackerPosts. How you doing, Mason?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be back, and I'm excited to talk some Packers football with you guys.
I'm doing great as well. Packers got the big win and just coming off the bye week here, and we're all doing great as Packers fans right now.
Yeah, Packers are 8-2. 2 weeks ago against the Carolina Panthers, they won 24-16. It feels like forever ago because we had the bye week, but it was a very solid win. The team looked very good, and hopefully they corrected any issues they had. They were completely healthy right now after the bye week, and going into a pretty big matchup with the San Francisco 49ers this Sunday. San Francisco is 9-1, as all of you know. They're the number one seed in the NFC right now, and this game could very well be a preview of a playoff game. It could be the deciding factor of who gets the one seed in the NFC. It's going to be a big game. We're going to be talking about that today on the podcast. We're going to kind of go over the Panthers game from 2 weeks ago because we never went over that, and we're just going to be talking about all things Packers on the Packers podcast. But first, we have some news. What's our news?
Yeah, the Packers looking healthy right now. Coming off their Wednesday injury report here, we don't have anybody who's dealing with any serious injuries. So looks like we're going to be almost completely healthy heading into this critical NFC conference game against the 49ers. And on the other hand, the 49ers are dealing with some injuries on their end. So the players that didn't participate on Wednesday for the Niners are Matt Breida, Dee Ford, Robbie Gould, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Emmanuel Sanders, and Joe Staley. And when I listed those guys off, you're looking at that list, and it's a lot of their star players, some of the guys that they rely on to make plays both on offense and defense. So that's definitely going to be an interesting storyline throughout the week because if the Packers are the way healthier team, that could be a huge advantage going into Sunday night.
Our health this season has been a really big surprise. As Packer fans, we're so used to, especially at this point in the season, the team being halfway depleted. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird for literally all 53 guys to be almost 100%. And it seems like every week we're going up against a team that's dealing with a lot of injuries, especially on the offensive line. I mean, we've talked about that numerous times. How many weeks in a row now have we faced backup tackles or backup guards?
When was the last time we didn't have to use an IR designation? I mean, I know they just changed it to 2. I think it was 2 years ago. But I mean, when was the last time where we didn't have a major guy who went down and we had to bring them back with the IR designation? I mean, we only used one of them so far. On Jay Sternberger, and really he's not even, he's a rookie. He's not a major playmaker like guys like Randall Cobb or whoever the case may be that we had go down in years past. But, it's really been one of the reasons we're 8-2 is because we've been so healthy. And even when we saw guys like Devontae Adams, he missed a month and we kind of didn't miss a beat on offense and kind of improved a little bit. So, and that's just kind of more towards just playing, more games and the offense kind of getting in a flow. But definitely one of the healthier seasons in Packers history, to my knowledge. And this is, as long as we can keep this up going down the line, it's going to be huge for us.
Just to put the fact that we have nobody on the injury report this week, there's only 2 teams this week that are going into week 12 with nobody on the injury report. So it's pretty crazy. And obviously we had a bye week, so everybody's going to be refreshed. But it is crazy. 2 out of the 32 teams, and we're one of them, did not have anybody on the injury report is a pretty sight to see.
Yeah, even in that last game, you saw 2 guys, Ty Summers and Tremont Smith, 2 special teamers for us, kind of go down with concussions and leave the game. And even they're fully participating now at this point. So the bye week definitely did us some good. And now we literally have 0 injuries to worry about. So it's great for us. It really is, because now we can just focus on, we know who's going to play. We know the guys that are going to be in all our packages. Everybody knows where they're going to have to be on Sunday night. And that's definitely a key advantage when a team like the San Francisco 49ers now has to kind of make guys aware that they could be playing in place of a guy like Dee Ford or George Kittle. And that's definitely a huge advantage.
And the next piece of news is Pro Bowl voting is officially open, and 5 Packers are currently leading the NFC in the most votes. Bron, you got those players on hand?
Yeah, Green Bay Packers tackle David Bakhtiari. He leads all tackles with 43,362 votes. Preston Smith, actually, over Zadarius Smith, has 33,583 votes. Adrian Amos in the safety column has 14,366. And special teamers, kicker Mason Crosby has 13,713. And punter J.K. Scott has 12,110. And all 5 of those guys lead all NFC players at each of their positions through the first week of fan voting. So that's definitely interesting considering, our special teams, that's really been the true weakness of our team. But those 2 guys have been really strong for us, especially Mason, who's only missed 1 kick this year. And obviously J.K. had a great start to the year, tailed off a little bit in the past couple of weeks, but I'm sure he'll have a nice game in the warm weather against the 49ers. So, both of those guys definitely helping their case to be in the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, some of those are definitely really surprising, like David Bakhtiari, who's not really having a great season by his standards, still having a good year, obviously, but it's kind of weird to see him snubbed so many years in a row, and now he's finally when he's kind of coming back down to earth as a left tackle, now he's leading the NFC in voting. But that's got a lot to do with name recognition. He had a crazy offseason with the the beers at the Bucs games. Name recognition is definitely a big deal, and guys like Adrian Amos and Preston Smith too. I kind of think that has to do with just there are a lot of Packer fans in general. We're a national team, obviously, but now that we're doing good, all the casual Packer fans are diehard Packer fans just for this season. You know what I mean? So they're all going to be voting, and I think that has a lot to do with it. But yeah, it's definitely surprising that we have so many names on that list after a couple years of only Rodgers and Devontae making it.
Yeah, the Packers actually, to your point, they've actually received the 3rd most fan votes by team total out of all the teams in the league. Only the Baltimore Ravens and 49ers are ahead of them in that category. And those are obviously, you're talking about 3 of the top 5 teams in the league. So definitely it probably has mostly to do with the fact that we're 8-2 and we're playing really well. And these guys are definitely a big part of it.
I can definitely see the Packers getting a couple more Pro Bowlers. Obviously, the top guys don't go. There's also a couple of extra reserves, but Aaron Rodgers will probably end up making the top 3 in voting in the NFC. Aaron Jones should make it behind Dalvin Cook and Christian McCaffrey. And I honestly think Elton Jenkins at guard. I know nobody probably knows. The casual fans probably don't know how good Elton Jenkins is doing this year, but he definitely deserves a Pro Bowl nod. Also, Brian Bulaga on the other side of the tackle position definitely deserves it. Probably is playing better than David Bakhtiari this year. And then Zadarius Smith, if he keeps racking up these sacks, he could probably maybe play alongside Preston Smith. So yeah, I'm a couple surprising names. It's pretty cool to see J.K. and Mason Crosby both lead the votings or the votes in the NFC, even though our special teams is pretty bad. It's pretty cool to see.
Zadarius, I thought, would be up there too. I'm interested in what his total number is because I feel like every week he's becoming more and more mainstream to the casual fans, like with the sack dances. He's in the backfield every single play. If you ever watch Packer games, even if you're not a Packers fan, you should probably know who that is. So I bet he's up there too, along with Preston. I bet he makes it by the time voting is up. And Brian Bulaga too, and Elton Jenkins should definitely make it. Elton Jenkins should be an All-Pro. I don't know if he'll make the Pro Bowl because it's only his rookie year, but I'm definitely expecting us to have quite a few names in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, but I don't think any of them will be there, so.
That's what we're hoping for, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the guys Mason talked about, definitely great picks to also, maybe those are the guys that should be in the conversation a little more than some of these other guys. But I think also Jair, if he kind of finishes strong, he's one of those name recognition guys, and he's kind of looked at as one of the top 10 corners in the league, as he should be. So I think he's another name to throw in there as well. But yeah, hopefully none of them are there, and we'll be in Miami having a great time.
And that about does it for all the news today. The Packers are coming out of a bye week, so there's really not a lot of news to talk about. So on the podcast today, we're just going to really just be talking about things we should work on over the bye week, and mainly it's going to be a preview of the Niners game this Sunday. But first, we're going to kind of touch on the Panthers game from 2 weeks ago. We never really talked about that. So after that Panthers game, what were you guys' thoughts coming out of that game?
Well, my initial thoughts were like, we got the win, great goal line stand at the end in a Packers snow game, which, loved watching that game. It was a great game. But obviously you're left thinking there was definitely some things that we need to work on going into face and at the time undefeated San Francisco 49er team. And definitely things on both sides of the ball that we needed to work on, and hopefully we did that. I know this is going to be a huge test for Matt LaFleur this bye week. This is one of the things that a lot of people look at in terms of how good a coach is, if they can really get a win off of this extra week that you get to prepare. So definitely going to be interesting to see that. But in terms of the Panthers game, I thought we came out with a really nice plan. On offense, Aaron Jones was the featured guy, obviously, and Jamal Williams got his touches as well. And as the weather progressed and got a little worse over the course of the game, that was definitely the fact that we had already developed that before the weather got bad was definitely a key factor for us in terms of our offensive side of the ball. And then on defense, we really were able to hold up in part due to the weather and in part because we held true to that bend but don't break style of defense, and that was the way we kind of won that game. And I thought we might go away from it after Mike Pettin kind of wanted that to. He kind of stated that shouldn't be our identity going forward all the time. And this game, it was just our identity once again, and maybe that won't be the case against the 49ers Sunday night. But whatever it takes to win, and that's what happened, and we got the win. So no complaints over here.
Yep, same old defense against the Panthers. The Packers fortunately caused 2 turnovers, even though they were kind of getting torn up by both Kyle Allen and Christian McCaffrey. But those 2 turnovers pretty much were the game. Packers were able to get the ball back, and we didn't have any turnovers on the offensive side of the ball. So, yeah, we won the turnover battle, and as the season has kind of gone along, we've seen every time we do have a turnover in the game, we end up winning it. I believe we're 8-0 in games we do force a turnover, and we're 0-2 in games that we don't. So that held true. And this is the second time this season that Aaron Rodgers didn't throw a touchdown pass, and we still won. It was another Aaron Jones type game. He had 13 carries, 93 yards, and another 3 touchdown game. Just a crazy year for him. And then it's just been awesome to see Devontae Adams ball out after coming back from his toe injury, 7 catches and 118 yards. So yeah, good game from the Packers, and just watching it on TV, I kind of wish I was there. That atmosphere, the snowing, how the field was kind of green from the first to the third quarter, and then all of a sudden when the fourth quarter came and it was getting intense, the snow just kind of piled on and the field turned white. It was awesome. It was awesome as a football fan to watch.
Yeah, I definitely think the football gods did us a favor, giving us that snow, giving us the advantage at the end of the game, kind of help us win that one. But yeah, definitely looking at, we got things to improve. And I think it starts with, the secondary play. I think we kind of have to stop allowing these big plays against a team like the 49ers, who have consistently moved the ball downfield against teams with solid secondaries. We definitely have to shore that up. And I think we might have been able to do that over the course of the bye week. I know Matt LaFleur did similar to what Mike McCarthy actually did in his last year as the Packers head coach. He called it across the hall meetings. Mike McCarthy did. And it's just something that Matt LaFleur probably thought would be a nice thing to do, just like to implement another person's, the other side of the ball, just their perspective on things. And that definitely kind of helps guys see the other side of it and, look at other guys' tendencies, look at what they're thinking, what they're going to do. So I definitely think that might have a big impact on, both Mike Pettin and the players on defense. And I think that's definitely one of the huge things we had to kind of shore up over the bye week.
Yeah, I think that was the general consensus coming out of the game, what you guys both said. It was a great game to watch because of the snow. We don't always get those games, those Lambeau snowy frozen tundra games. So it was definitely fun to watch. And the team did look better, especially compared to the Chargers game the week before. But yeah, there are definitely some things we need to work on. You look at the defense. Like you said, we got back to the bend don't break, and it worked because we got the turnovers and our pass rush. It was applying pressure consistently. Za'Darius alone had, I think, 14 or 15 pressures. The pass rush was getting into the backfield. It helps that the Panthers O-line is not very good to begin with and was pretty banged up. But then the turnovers, we got that pick in the red zone, and then the fumbled snap that definitely helped us out there. And then on the offense, there are some things we need to fix. We need to work on getting Devontae involved in the scheme because Devontae was playing when the Matt LaFleur offense was in its infancy. Then he went out and we kind of found our identity as an offense, and we haven't really found a way to consistently make it work with him in the game plan, how to get the running backs the ball, how to get Jimmy Graham the ball, how to get Devontae Adams the ball as well. I think that was definitely still an issue on Sunday. Rodgers didn't look very sharp either. And then the goal line period at the end of the half, that was a complete mess. But yeah, overall, I think it was a solid game. I wouldn't call it a get right game, but it was definitely it helped their morale as a team. I think going into the bye week, you always want to enter the bye week with a win, and it helps coming off of a disgusting loss to the Chargers the week before.
Yeah, looking at talking about Devontae Adams, he really did have a pretty nice game. He had 7 receptions and 118 yards. Still didn't get in the end zone yet, but Rodgers was able to find him, and that was pretty much the only guy that he could consistently find. And that had a lot to do with Panthers cornerback, their number 1 corner, James Bradbury, actually going out last week and not playing. So
yeah, what I meant by that was a lot of that didn't when Adams was out, it looked like we were playing in rhythm all the time. It looked like everything was Rodgers knew where to go with the football. But Devontae did have a good game. He had over 100 yards. But a lot of that came on what I felt was kind of like
kind of force feeding him, Mike.
A little bit, yeah. And
yeah, I definitely. Rodgers always talks about how he wants to kind of get him the ball and get him in a groove. And I think when he looks for him and it kind of focuses on him, doesn't have that kind of a little bit deteriorates his field vision, looking for he'll kind of force the ball to Devontae on multiple occasions. And I mean, that's never a real bad thing, but I mean, it definitely helps when Rodgers has the field vision to go first read not open, second read open, that kind of thing. So. But yeah, definitely, you're right about that for sure. But when Adams is playing well and Aaron Jones is able to score 3 touchdowns, get 93 yards on the ground, I mean that's all very I thought our offense was pretty cohesive and overall, and that's just I think it was a good game for us to kind of just get back in the groove after that Chargers loss. This was a game that kind of slowly progressed for us the way we wanted it to, where we were able to develop both the run and the pass.
Yeah, I agree.
It was kind of a weird game in general for the offense. Aaron Rodgers only targeted running backs 1 time. That was to Jamal Williams, and he didn't even neither Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams ended the game with a reception. And Aaron Jones is second on the team with 35 catches, and Jamal Williams is our 4th leading receiver with 25. So definitely weird.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. That was working so well for us. Teams didn't know how to stop that. They were playing man against us, and we were just exploiting those mismatches with our running backs on their linebackers. So I wish we could find a way to get Devontae all his targets, because he's a superstar wide receiver. He deserves the targets he gets, but also not move away from what was working for us when he was out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something they absolutely looked at during the bye week, when Matt LaFleur talked about how the focus of the bye week was going to be really self-scouting, finding out what they do well, checking their tendencies, seeing if they lived up to the his statement of trying to be 50-50 running and passing it. So definitely I'm looking to see if they're going to hold true to what they wanted to do at the beginning of the year, and or at least correct some of those things and try to get that balance back, or because we've been throwing the ball a lot more than Matt LaFleur might have anticipated, and that's just, he talks about that as kind of like the flow of the game, and just it goes the way it goes. But you might see a game plan where we really try to run on the 49ers, kind of combat the pass rush that they have. They've got a really nice secondary too. So the weakness if there is a weakness, it might be in that 49ers run defense, and we might be able to exploit it if we came up with a great game plan over the course of the bye week.
What did you guys think of the defense after the Panthers game? I know we kind of touched on that, but let's elaborate on the defense a little bit more.
What was interesting to me was the ability that our pass rush had to get to the quarterback nearly on every down. And the guys that were really doing it really well were Preston Smith, obviously. He had 2 sacks, and Zadarius Smith, obviously. He was in the backfield, like Griff said, consistently, and he had about 14 or 15 quarterback pressures. So, but the guy for me that really had maybe his best game of the year was Kenny Clark in the middle. And when we're able to have that pressure on the left side, the right side, and going through the middle, that's how you win football games on that side of the ball. And Kenny was he was a monster. Like, he looked as great as he's looked since last year. And he was getting in the backfield, on run plays, obviously on pass plays too. And Kyle Allen, who's basically a stationary quarterback most of the time, definitely had a lot of trouble trying to get the ball to his guys when you've got three monsters rushing at him there. So I definitely think the pass rush was a huge part of our victory and a huge reason why we only allowed 16 points on defense.
Yeah, that was really good to see Kenny Clark kind of have a breakout game. A lot of people on Twitter were kind of pointing fingers at Kenny and kind of saying he isn't playing as good as he was last year, and him and Blake are the reason our run defense is pretty bad this year. But he really played really well. He almost got to the quarterback with him and Preston Smith on one of those Kyle Allen sacks, and he was just stuffing the run. And what I saw from the defense, it's been a while since this Panthers game, but I'm just thinking about that last drive. That drive seemed like it was never going to end. We're pretty lucky, the time was on our side there. It looked like Kyle Allen was going to lead a whatever it was 16 play drive all the way down, and he converted a fourth down. They just kept going, but luckily Preston Smith and Kyler Fackrell came up clutch and stopped Christian McCaffrey as time expired. It was just scary, especially with Kyle Allen. I don't think Kyle Allen's that good. That last drive had me really scared for, luckily we were able to stop him, but I was scared.
Yeah, even if they got in there, I was pretty confident that our guys were going to be able to stop them on any potential 2-point conversion. But in terms of the secondary, a guy that I really thought played a great game, considering it was his first game back in over a year, was Ibrahim Campbell. He had a great impact on our defense, and he played really well. And I was a bit surprised. They kind of threw him in, like we talked about. We didn't expect him to be thrown in and start right away, but he was kind of, in nickel packages. He was there every single down, and it was definitely incredible to see him come out and have a great game, make a lot of impact plays. And that was definitely a big boost that we needed after losing, Raven Green to IR, and Will Redmond kind of faded out of that role, and Shannon Sullivan played in that role a little bit and faded out a little bit. And it looks like Ibrahim Campbell could be the guy, during this stretch of games where we need to play our best. So that was a huge boost for us, and that definitely had a big impact. And he had actually a big impact in both the run and the pass game. So hopefully he can continue to do that for us moving forward.
Yeah, Ibrahim Campbell definitely made a huge impact. Like we were expecting him to, maybe not immediately, maybe not thrown into it, like you said, as soon as he was, but we were definitely expecting him to make an impact. And he actually allowed Adrian Amos to play up top with Darnell Savage a lot more, because Amos was playing in the box a lot because we didn't have a safety who could do that reliably. So with Amos up top, it allows him to kind of play his natural position at deep safety. And then Campbell, he had a couple slip ups, but that's expected in his first game back. But yeah, he definitely had a really strong game. But the secondary, just as a whole, I think it was still pretty inconsistent. A lot of open receivers, a lot of blown coverages, but it did look better compared to the Chargers game or the Chiefs game the week before that. That of course has to do with the quarterback play and the passing games. Maybe they're not as strong as the Chargers, the Chiefs, but regardless, I think Jair Alexander definitely bounced back. I think he had a really strong game. But Kevin King, I don't even know what to make of Kevin King anymore. He plays inconsistently, and it's not just week to week. It's like play to play. You never know what you're going to get from Kevin King. They were throwing the ball at him a lot. It was a lot of curl routes right underneath him. I don't think
they started attacking him, and he was kind of just letting balls, get caught, and he had 9 tackles in the game. And when you look at a cornerback and he has 9 tackles, you know that they're passing to guys that he's guarding, and he has to go and make tackles. And he was making tackles well, but he had a really bad game in coverage.
Yeah, he did. They were definitely attacking him as the game went on. As the snow came down, I don't think the snow was helping him at all, because I know you say this all the time, Bron. He tends to be a little flat-footed. He can lose his footing, especially against shiftier receivers who can maybe make a quick cut right underneath his zone. We saw a lot of that, him slipping and falling a few times. Yeah, we just need better play from Kevin King on a more on a more consistent basis. He had a pretty strong start to the season. I thought he was gonna kind of break out as a Packer, kind of have a Pro Bowl season maybe, but I think we need to see a lot more consistency from him if we want the secondary to be as good as we know it can be, as we've seen him play.
Yeah, and we continue to talk about this each and every week, but we're still waiting for that game where both Jair Alexander and Kevin King lock down their guys and play a great football game together at the same time. And Jair had a nice game last week, but Kevin King's game was one of his worst games of the year, and he has been so inconsistent all year long. He's had games where he looks like maybe a top 5 corner in the NFL, and then there's games where he can't cover anybody. And the snow definitely. I mean, like Griff alluded to, he's definitely flat-footed at times. You can see him kind of, a receiver will get a great jump on him, at the line of scrimmage, and he'll already be behind them. So I definitely think the snow didn't help him there. And who knows, maybe he'll come back and play a great game this week. But a guy like Marquise Goodwin, if he's covering a guy like him, that could be a long day for Kevin King as well. So we'll have to see what happens. But definitely still we gotta see these guys play together at the same time. And especially in big games like this where, we're trying to make a team throw on us our strategy on offense every week as a team in general is to get out to a lead and make teams throw the ball against us so our pass rushers can pin their ears back and kind of let it rip. But when Kevin King or Jair Alexander aren't holding up their end of the bargain, it's difficult to do that. And then we're going to start getting into shootouts, so we definitely have to. That's one of the things we have to definitely do is make sure our guys, those 2 bookend corners we got to make sure they're doing their job. And hopefully that's something they were able to correct, make their own corrections, like self-scouting. Stuff like that over the course of this bye week and this week leading up to the game on Sunday night.
This week's going to be a big test for the Packers secondary. Jimmy Garoppolo has been balling out lately. Kyle Shanahan's offense is run heavy. They're going to establish a run, and, that's just going to open up things in the passing game. So this week is a big test. I hope they're ready.
Yeah, their offense has been humming, but, if you're looking at maybe a possible weakness on that offense, it might be the quarterback, and that bodes well for obviously the secondary and the pass rush, but even Jimmy, even if that's their weakness, he's still been playing really, really well, and he's helped them get to a 9-1 record. So that's going to be definitely a matchup we got to look at and see what we can do to kind of stop and quell that 49ers offense.
What worries me is it feels like every quarterback or every offense who's maybe not very good, who maybe struggles throughout the year, just plays amazing versus us. I mean, go back to Carson Wentz and the Eagles offense. They struggle every single week. We watch them on TV. They can't move the ball. Against us, they go up and down the field and they win. They put up 34 points or 31 points. And then guys like Matt Moore, I said it had a lot more to do with Andy Reid and the Chiefs' skill position players, a lot more than Matt Moore, but he still looked very comfortable. He still looked like he was knowing to go with the football every single down. Derek Carr is having a strong season, but he looked like a Hall of Fame quarterback versus us. And then Phillip Rivers is having a terrible season. He threw 4 picks this past Monday night. He's looking awful in every single week. And versus us, he looks like prime Phillip Rivers. And then Kyle Allen even, who looks like a worse version of Alex Smith every single week, looks like Tom Brady versus us, just sitting in the pocket, picking us apart. So I am very worried about what Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo are going to do versus us, but I'm really hoping the bye week helped everyone in the secondary get more comfortable. Guys are healthy. Guys know we have like a group of starters finally now. In week 12, we finally have a core group of players. I'm hoping they get comfortable starting this week because we saw what Jimmy Garoppolo was able to do against the Cardinals last week, and I don't want any part in that.
Well, at the same time, you saw them kind of struggle in their last 2 games. They almost lost to the Cardinals, and then the game before that, they lost to the Seahawks. So, I mean, they definitely are a beatable team, and it starts by stopping their offense at least to a point where we can score more points than them, obviously, whatever that takes. But I don't know how this bend but don't break mentality will work against a team like this, where they've been kind of proficient in the red zone, each and every week. Teams that are proficient in the red zone are the ones that have the great records because that's where the points are mainly scored. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, looking at that matchup, that defense versus the Niners offense, we have to make some corrections, and hopefully we did. But at the same time, I think Matt LaFleur knows a lot about Kyle Shanahan and vice versa. So we'll have to see what happens. This could be one of those low-scoring games where the defense kind of has to get the job done for us because those two guys know each other so well. And, maybe that's the kind of thing we're looking at. So who knows? But, yeah, I'm definitely interested to see that, how that dynamic plays out.
I think it helps that we do have a disciple of Kyle Shanahan in Matt LaFleur as our head coach, because Mike Pettin, all of training camp, was going up against that offense, which is not identical, but very, very similar philosophies. So I think Mike Pettin should be at least familiar with what Kyle Shanahan plans to throw at him. But that works both ways. The 49ers should also now have an idea of what we're doing, but I think we have the advantage there because we have Aaron Rodgers. So he can make off-script throws. He can, if his pre-snap read isn't there, he knows how to make something work. Jimmy Garoppolo, we haven't really seen him be able to do that.
Yeah, he's definitely not. He doesn't have that pocket, presence that obviously Aaron Rodgers has, where he can kind of get outside the pocket and get off script and make throws. But yeah, maybe that's the thing right there. Get Jimmy Garoppolo to go off script. Use our pass rush and our obviously our defensive backfield, in the coverage aspect of the play. To get him out of the pocket and try to make him make throws on the run, things like that. Maybe that's the key for the defense. There's a lot of different little nuances that we have to look at. What can we make them do that they're not so good at that we can do on the offensive side to help win us the game on offense and win us the game on defense?
Yeah, that's definitely the proven formula of how to beat the 49ers. You have to, or at least contend with them, you have to pressure Jimmy Garoppolo because he doesn't respond well. We do that a lot versus inexperienced quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo is not very inexperienced, but I think that might be the game plan for Mike Pettin this week is to, show him, confuse him pre-snap, give him the classic Mike Pettin looks where we got 8 guys in the box and we only send 4, but Garoppolo doesn't know who's coming from where. He's proven to be a little shaky versus things like that when under pressure. We saw the Seahawks do it, and we saw the Cardinals do it last week and the week before the Seahawks game. So I think that's definitely what we're going to see this Sunday. But
is 109.4. Obviously, that's a great mark from inside the pocket when it's clean. But when he's under pressure, it's actually a 63.8 passer rating. So that definitely tells you that, that maybe that's the game plan we need to do. Just really pressure him and confuse him with looks, like you were saying, from Mike Pettin, blitz looks and things like that. But, we faced a lot of inexperienced quarterbacks this year, like Matt Moore and obviously Kyle Allen. But we haven't been – I mean, I know we got a lot of pressure last week, but it seems like we still aren't able to maximize the pressure to where we just where they're not able to make throws inside the pocket. It seems like Matt Moore and Kyle Allen were able to we're still able to make throws, from clean pockets at times. But I think we definitely have to send a lot of pressure this week because obviously Jimmy Garoppolo is not as great of a quarterback when facing that kind of pressure. So
that's definitely something we need to work on. It is infuriating, especially last week, especially the closing drive. It is so frustrating when these guys are in the backfield every play, but they just cannot wrap up and make the sack. Za'Darius Smith especially, I feel like he's in the backfield every single play, every single passing down. He's there, but he can't wrap up. And Kyle Allen was able to escape from a lot of sacks. The sack numbers should have been exponentially higher than they were. So I think that it's been an issue all season, really. I think that's something they really need to work on up front.
I've been looking at this 49ers defense, and I'm trying to draw a comparison. I do kind of see a comparison to the Chargers defense that the Packers offense had a lot of struggles with. They got Nick Bosa and DJ Jones rushing the outside, very good pass rushers, just like Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa from the Chargers that kind of tore up our tackles back when the Packers got crushed. And on the inside, they got DeForest Buckner and Fred Warner playing middle linebacker, and they got a great secondary led by obviously Richard Sherman and Jimmy Ward. So my question to you guys is, do you guys think the Packers offense can kind of adjust? Because I feel like this defense is even better than the Chargers defense, and it's very similar. Very good pass rushing defense, and a lot of talent on the outside too to, cover wide receivers. Do you guys think, the Packers can get around that and, make a game plan to adjust and be able to attack and put up more than 11 points?
Well, I think the fatal flaw for the Packers going back to the Chargers game was it was Devontae Adams' first game back, so maybe this had something to do with it, but we were way too pass heavy. Like, you could say it's because we were down early, but we held them to field goals. It was 9-0 in the second half. So I think it was a lot of Devontae Adams is back. Let's get him rolling. Aaron Jones only had 9 touches that game. I think we're going to play it much differently this game because the 49ers have the 19th ranked run defense according to Football Outsiders. And Bron, you were talking about this earlier. That's definitely the weakness of their defense. And otherwise, outstanding defense is pretty susceptible to the run. So I think if we can get Aaron Jones a lot more involved, especially in the running game, and Jamal Williams, I think that'll open up the play action game like we always say. And then the passing game will be much more efficient than it was versus the Chargers. And that also takes out the pass rush because they've got a great pass rush. But if they have to play both the run and the pass, if we're more 50-50 than we were versus the Chargers, then that kind of counters that. And I think that's what Matt LaFleur is going to do, because if we saw it, then he definitely saw it, the issue that was present in the Chargers game. And I think he's going to fix that.
Well, the one thing that I think is the main thing that we've got to really correct this week is we've got to stop beating ourselves on offense. And by that, I mean the pre-snap penalties that we've been dealing with so far this season. And I think the bye week should have definitely helped us in that category. Like I said, the self-scouting part of it, I'm sure Matt LaFleur has gotten on the guys about that. And whether it's been, delay of games and then a delay of game after a timeout, or obviously even just penalties on offense in general. You're talking about holding on offense, false starts, whatever the case may be. We've definitely got to get that in order, because if the 49ers are going to beat us, we can't let it be us beating ourselves. They have to be the team that comes out and beats us. So we have to eliminate the penalties on offense, and especially the pre-snap ones. So that's my key factor for our offense, going up against that defense.
Yeah, the Packers lead the league in both pre-snap and total offensive penalties this season. And if we're going to make comparisons to the Chargers game, then the Chargers game was definitely where these offensive penalties were most prevalent. That's really what killed us. We've talked about that. We just could not get ahead of ourselves. We could not stop beating ourselves. We couldn't stop shooting ourselves in the foot that game. So as long as we don't get out to a start like that, where we had 3 drives that were just derailed by false start penalties and blocking the back penalties and holding penalties, then I think we should be in a much better spot. Because I think that's what got us off track in that game. I think that's what got us away from the run game maybe. So yeah, that's definitely something we need to fix. And I'm hoping that's what Matt LaFleur was mainly focusing on during the bye week, because I think that's the biggest issue in our offense over everything else.
Another thing that I think we have to look at on offense is taking the ball off the opening kickoff. I think we should start. I mean, last week we saw the Packers win the toss and defer, which I was a little surprised at. I really think the identity of this offense and this team in general is to get ahead scoring wise, early on, and then kind of like I've said 100 times, make their other team's offense have to pass on our defense. And obviously our pass rushers will do its job. But I definitely think we have to come out and score quickly, especially on this kind of defense that we're facing, because if we can get the ball, do a good job, score on the first possession, even just 3 on the first possession, that sets the tone for the rest of the game. It lets the 49ers know that we're a real offense and we're going to do our job against this defense that has really been one of the top 3 in the league so far. So I definitely think we have to get the ball on offense to start the game. And because last week we were going to get the ball to start the second half, but in when we tried to double up, we obviously couldn't get that done at the goal line there. So it's really, when we can't execute like that, and the chance that we even get to do that is rare, I feel like just setting the tone of the game at this point is the better option for us, especially on offense.
Yeah, that's definitely bugging me as well. I always thought that was a Mike McCarthy thing, that to defer the kickoff and try and double up. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers talks about that all the time, so maybe that is an Aaron Rodgers thing. Maybe he likes the double up. I mean, when it works, it's definitely helpful. We saw it in the Raiders game, but it doesn't often work out like that. We don't usually end up with the ball at the end of the half, and we don't always score to open the second half. So I think we just need to give up on the doubling up. I think, like you said, getting out to an early lead on offense definitely sets the tone. It helps our momentum as an entire team because it forces the offense to kind of have to play catch up. And if we can keep up, because if the offense can keep rolling throughout the game, then it forces the 49ers offense to have to play catch up. That's definitely helpful. It's helpful for our defense because we're much better against the pass than the run, and it helps our pass rush. It helps the entire team. I just don't know why we're so insistent on deferring the opening kickoff, and I definitely agree with you. I think we should move off of that. I was saying it all last year too. It's very frustrating because it feels like our defense always gives up points on the opening drive. I don't have an exact stat on that, but it feels like we always give up a lot of yards and usually a score on the opening drive. And I kind of have to tell myself that, oh, that's just what the Packers defense does. It'll get better. So I think if we can score on offense first, then maybe that'll counter that.
Actually, I'm pretty sure we've done a solid job at holding teams, to no points to start games on defense. I think we've only had about 2 or 3 games where they've scored on the first drive, but definitely last year that was a problem. So, yeah, this is the thing we've got to do. I mean, I prefer that we score on the first drive and then hold them on their first drive. That way, we're out to a lead with the ball in our hands. So, definitely, that's obviously something that we need to look at moving forward, and maybe it's something we'll adjust this Sunday night. But Mason, what are your thoughts on the offensive matchup with this defense? Like you said, it's really 2 juggernauts. 2 of the league's best at their respective sides of the ball. So I'm really wondering what we have to do to kind of overcome some of the great talent on their defensive line and obviously some of their talent in the secondary as well.
No, just like you said it is like the Packers offensive line against this 49ers defensive line. It's 2 of the best groups in the NFL. This is going to be a battle. Like I'm really hoping this is a better showing than the Chargers game. The 49ers defensive line is nothing to play with. And, as long as we can hold them, the Packers offensive line has been, able to create a clean pocket. Last week, there was a stat by Field Yates that said the Packers offensive line created 3.6 yards before contact per rush on Sunday. And Aaron Rodgers was only pressured on a season-low 4 dropbacks. This offensive line has been playing great. Aaron was only sacked 2 times last week for only 8 yards. So, and this 49ers defense is, like I already said, is no joke. I'm really excited for the Davante Adams versus Richard Sherman matchup. Those 2 always battle. Richard Sherman came out and said Davante Adams' release off the line is one of the best in the league, which is hard to disagree with. So this is definitely a battle, and this has serious playoff implications. This NFC is a dogfight. 5 teams with 8 wins right now, compared to the AFC having only 2 teams with 8 wins. This NFC playoff picture is crazy. If you're a team like the Rams, the team that represented the NFC in the Super Bowl last year, they're 6-4, and their way to the playoffs is tough. They're 2 games behind, and they're 6-4, and they're a pretty solid team. And the Packers are I'm not going to say lucky because we've definitely earned all our wins, but we're in a good spot right now. And this week we have a chance to take over that 1 seed and kind of control our own destiny. And it starts with this 49ers team. So this is a crazy big game, and everybody gets to watch it on Sunday Night Football. So it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, this kind of feels like a year where maybe 10 wins won't make the playoffs. I think we're going to finish with more than 10 wins, but that's just speaking to how loaded this conference is. And Aaron actually said it today. He said, the way I look at it, we've got to beat them at their place at some point. It would be nice to do it now. And I agree with him. I think this is definitely a must win looking at the number 1 seed in the NFC. If we drop to 8-3 and the Niners are 10-1, I think that's kind of out of reach. I mean, they've got a very tough schedule coming up, the Niners do, but I just feels like that'd be really tough to overcome, losing that head-to-head matchup. So if we want the playoffs to come through Green Bay, this is definitely a must-win for us.
Yeah, guys, let's take a look at this playoff picture that we've got in the NFC. I mean, you're talking about, like Mason said, 5 teams with 8 wins. When was the last time we saw anything like that? At week 12? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, and they're a good football team. We've beaten them so far. They're leading the NFC East at 6-4. But obviously the San Francisco 49ers sitting at 9-1 as the first seed. Green Bay Packers 8-2 in the second seed. The New Orleans Saints also 8-2, but we have the advantage due to the NFC conference record that we have. They're at the 3 seed, and then obviously Dallas as the 4 seed at 6-4. Then it gets interesting because the team that just beat the 49ers 2 weeks ago, the Seattle Seahawks, are sitting at the 5 seed at 8-2, and the Minnesota Vikings are sitting at 8-3, a team we also beat. So looking at that Seattle team, though, they could jump to number 2 if we come out with a win against San Francisco and Seattle gets their business done as well. So that's a huge flip that could happen where, San Francisco goes from the 1 seed to the 5th seed. That's going to be a storyline throughout the rest of the season because they actually meet once again in week 17, and that game could be for that division as well. So that's going to be a very interesting part of this NFC playoff picture. But what are some of the other teams, some of the other different scenarios that you could see happening that interest you guys?
Well, the Vikings definitely scare me. I mean, just watching their offense every week, Kirk Cousins is really playing really good football right now, and against pretty good competition too. I mean, I'm sure we all watched the game last Sunday. Very frustrating as a Packers fan, but he's looked sharp since that Bears game, which was week 4. He's been on fire, and so being only 1 game behind us, they definitely scare me. That week 16 game is definitely going to be huge. I think that's maybe more important than this game because that could be for the division depending on how things play out for each team. But that's going to be a scary game. We've never won in that building, and if the Vikings are able to keep up what they've been doing, especially on offense, then I don't know how that game could go for us. I don't know what the implications could be, but if we can get a win this Sunday, get the momentum, get rolling as a team again, it'd be huge for us to get a bye and not have to worry about the competition within the division.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Packers don't have the luxury that the Saints have. The Saints are 3 games ahead of their second place team in the division, the Panthers, and the Packers and the Niners both have teams that are right on their butt. If the Packers were to lose this game, they have the same record as the Vikings, So this is a huge game. It literally could decide the difference between having a 1 or 2 seed or playing an away game to start at a 5 or a 6 seed. It's just crazy. I really didn't expect the Vikings to be at this position. I remember week 3, maybe it was, they lost to the Bears 7-17, and that's kind of when the whole Kirk Cousins, Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen debacle all went down. Stephon Diggs kind of wanted to get traded or whatever, and now look at them, 8-3 in a playoff spot, right on our butt. They got a bye week this week, so they're definitely going to be watching us, hoping we lose, and the Seahawks are going to be watching us too because they obviously want us to win. And this NFC, it's just so tough. It really is. No matter what happens when it comes to playoff time, there's not going to be a gimme game. Whoever gets the NFC East team, the Eagles and the Cowboys are both solid teams. We lost to the Eagles. The Cowboys are a capable football team as well. It's just not going to be easy. It's not going to be like the AFC where, the Chiefs. If the Chiefs get the 3rd seed, then they might have to play, the Colts. There's nothing like that in the NFC. This is going to be a dogfight, and this week is just huge, so big. It would be crazy if the Packers won this week, and it wouldn't be crazy if the Packers won this week. But if they did win this week, we'd be in the 1st seed. That would be crazy. I don't think we've been a 1st seed since, or had the 1st seed since maybe 2014.
Yeah.
When the play. So yeah, this is awesome, the position that we're in right now.
And there's nothing more exciting than, being in a race and everybody's trying to get a bye and everybody has a shot at the bye. And, there's a lot of teams trying to get those final spots. Although it looks like, looking at some teams on the outside looking in right now, like you talked about the Rams, the Panthers. Right now, Philadelphia is not in the mix. Chicago is 4-6. Their schedule is a little favorable going down the stretch here, but I don't see them getting back in it. Atlanta, they're 3-7. They don't really have a shot, but you're looking at the Rams, the Eagles, and the Carolina as the only teams with a real shot outside of the current playoff teams. So I'd be a little surprised if this field that we have now isn't the field at the end of the season, whether the seeding changes up or not. But really, the only contested seed in that division in terms of a team coming in on the outside would be the Eagles, who are 5-5 and taking that NFC East title. They'd have to defeat Dallas, which that game would be in Philadelphia, and they'd also have to win another game that the Dallas Cowboys don't. So I'm not sure how likely that'll be, but yeah, this playoff field is really tough because let's say we are the 2 seed, right? The games currently that are slated right now, if the playoffs were today, are the New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys versus the Seattle Seahawks, and we'd obviously face the team with the higher seed. So, I mean, imagine having to play New Orleans, a team who could very well get a bye. I mean, or even Seattle, who has beaten already an undefeated team at the time in San Francisco, or Minnesota, division rival. So, I mean, it's really going to be interesting to see who we come out and face if we do get a bye.
Yeah, I definitely think the playoff picture right now, the top 5 teams, the Packers, 49ers, Saints, Seahawks, Vikings, I think those 5 are kind of set. You know, there's 6 games left to go, and the teams in the hunt right now are, again, they're pretty behind. Not gonna lie, I don't think the Panthers can catch the Saints from 3 games behind. The Cowboys and Eagles, those are the 2 teams you can maybe switch, but the Bears are 4-6. I don't know if you guys saw today, but there's a tweet going around that someone, a Bears fan on Twitter, possibly put out the idea that the Bears could run the table like the Packers did in 2016 at 4-6 and make the playoffs. I don't see how that's possible with the wild card spot.
Mitch Trubisky is going to become the wizard that Aaron Rodgers was, and he's going to run the table, baby.
That wasn't even a Bears fan. That was NBC Sports Chicago.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's
or maybe you saw a Bears fan, but NBC Sports Chicago, like the verified Twitter account, posted like a little hype video of maybe the Bears can repeat that. Like, oh, that's just funny to me. That's just sad, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they have just so many different things wrong with them right now. Not to get into Chicago too much, but I mean, they're a team that when we go play them in Green Bay, we should definitely come out with a win there for sure. Let's take a look at our schedule actually once again here. We've got, let's see. So obviously the 49ers this week in San Francisco, Giants in New York, Redskins at home, Bears at home, Vikings away, and Lions away to end the year. So, I mean, what games do you guys see us possibly losing there? I mean, our schedule's relatively easy compared to the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, me and Bron, we both posted about this week. We have definitely the easiest schedule among all the 1 seed, the NFC contenders. We're the only team with the combined opponents having a losing record. I wouldn't say it's an easy schedule for us because there are definitely a lot of good teams that we still have to play, but I think the Giants and Redskins kind of pull that record down, the combined record. So those are 2 gimmies. If we drop one of those games, I'll be very embarrassed, and it'll definitely hurt our seeding chances. But the Vikings and the San Fran game, I think those are the obvious answers. Those are going to be very tough. I think the Vikings game more so just because it's a division game. That place is an insane place to play. It's so loud. We've never won there. I think that's the game I'm most afraid of. And the San Fran game, that's no gimme either.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everything goes well in San Francisco this week. But, we do have a nice little stretch. Giants, I thought the New York Giants in New York might be a challenge, but they're coming off a loss to the Jets this week. So I'm kind of over that. I don't think that should be a problem for us. And then we got the Dwayne Haskins-led Redskins at home,
who had not scored a touchdown in over a month before last week's game, by the way.
That's crazy. And they have to come to Lambeau, so shouldn't be a problem. And then we got the Bears coming to Lambeau. Obviously, we all love playing the Chicago Bears, and they've been a disappointment this season. And then, like you said, Griff, the Vikings game at Minnesota, that's probably going to be the decider if the Packers are going to have a bye or, win the division. That game is what that I have eyes on that game. No matter what happens this week, if we lose or win, that game is going to be the deciding factor. I feel like and it's on Monday Night Football for everybody to see. So
that could be Kirk Cousins. Obviously we talk about, and everybody talks about how Kirk Cousins kind of struggles in prime time. I mean, their next slate of games, a lot of them are in prime time here, and obviously our game on Monday Night Football. So we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's so inconsistent. Even at his best, he's not worth the $84 million guaranteed that they paid him over 3 years. So it depends on how he comes to play. I mean, he could come as a D- quarterback, or he could come as like an A, B+ quarterback. So, and that's really how they go. They go with him, and so we'll see what happens.
I think we saw week 2. Obviously, the Vikings are a completely different team, but week 2, Mike Pettin definitely had Kirk Cousins' number. Kirk Cousins looked terrible in that week 2 game. It looked the worst he's been as a Viking. I would say. So I think Mike Pettin, after last year where Kirk Cousins kind of ate us up in both games, I think Mike Pettin figured out how to beat Kirk Cousins, how to confuse him pre-snap. But like I said, it's a very different team. They are rolling right now. They look better right now than they ever have with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. Maybe you can't replicate the formula we used in week 2, but I do like our chances with Mike Pettin at DC against Kirk Cousins.
And there's 2 games this week that Packers fans should kind of look out for, that we'll have some rooting interest in, apart from our game, obviously. And that's the Seahawks going into Philadelphia. We'll be rooting for the Eagles that game to beat the Seahawks in terms of seeding purposes. And the other game is the Panthers going into New Orleans against the Saints. And obviously we'll be rooting for the Panthers in that game. So those are just 2 games to watch. Really the only 2 games that have any sort of playoff implications in terms of the Packers seeding. So, but there is quite a few good games this week. And obviously our game being flexed to the Sunday Night Football, it's obviously the best game this week, and it's a huge one.
Let's talk a little bit about the MVP conversation right now, because we know Aaron Rodgers was in the mix for a couple weeks 7 and 8. He was actually leading. He was actually the most favored MVP candidate according to most odds sites, but he's definitely fallen down that ranking as of right now, and it looks like we have he's not going to win it. He's not favored to win it at all, but Aaron Jones is kind of the MVP of our team, I think I'd say. But maybe if Rodgers can put together a great winning streak, a great streak of games where he plays not as good as 2016, because no one's ever played like that before, but maybe similar to that, where he just closes the year like a madman, like he's done in late November and December before. Maybe he can be thrown back into that mix with Lamar and Russell. But what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Aaron's MVP chances?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a scenario where we go 14-2 to finish the year, and obviously if Aaron Rodgers has any part in that, I'm sure he'll be thrown right back in the conversation. I mean, I'd imagine 14-2 would be the best record in football, or if not tied for the best record in football. So, and Aaron Rodgers, he started off a little slow, came on hot in the middle of the year, and he's kind of, well, I think a lot of it's due in part to the Packers' loss against the Chargers. That's really the only time he's cooled down. The Chargers game, then the Panthers game, didn't have a great game, and then obviously the bye week. So it's a bit of recency bias, and he obviously he hasn't had a great game in 3 weeks now, but I think he can definitely get right back into the conversation just by having one really strong game, against the 49ers on primetime television, against maybe, the best defense in the league right now. I think that throws him right back into the conversation once again, amongst the guys like Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, whoever else you throw in there.
Like, I love Aaron Jones, but I really don't see him in this MVP conversation just because of the yardage. Like, Christian McCaffrey has been dropping down everybody's MVP boards, and he has the same amount of touchdowns as Aaron Jones and a lot more yards than him. I really do think Aaron Rodgers has a good chance as long as he keeps up the stats. Obviously, as a Packer fans, we only care about winning, and we've won 2 games this year with Aaron throwing 0 touchdowns. But yeah, right now Lamar Jackson is playing out of his mind. he's a really fun player to watch. Like it, I was a little too young to watch Michael Vick in his prime, but it definitely draws Vick comparisons there, and he's really balling out. 25 touchdowns on the year, and even even more on the ground. He's top 10 in rushing yards this season. I definitely think it's his award to run away with as long as he keeps it up. And he's had some quality wins over quality opponents in the past month, like beating the Seahawks, Patriots, and the Texans. So yeah, very impressed by Lamar Jackson. But if we're talking about Packers, I really do think Aaron Rodgers has a chance as long as the stats get up. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that it's riding on.
Yeah, that's really the drawback for me. I don't think he's going to win it. I think even if we do go 14-2, I don't think he'd be up there just because I don't think he's able to keep up with Wilson or Lamar stat-wise. I think it's kind of like a Tom Brady or Drew Brees situation with us right now. I don't think he's not as old as them, and I don't think he's as, quote, washed as them. I think he's still an elite quarterback, one of the best in the league, but we don't need to ride him every single week. We don't need to put the ball in his hands. We don't need him to throw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns every week. I think the formula now is we're gonna play through our running game, and if he's playing well, we're gonna put the ball in Aaron's hands because you never want to take the ball out of Aaron's hands when he's hot. But he's not our sole offensive identity anymore, like a Russell Wilson or Lamar Jackson are. So I don't think he's gonna keep up with their stats, and wins are important for quarterbacks. The media definitely views wins as quarterback stats. So if we are 14-2, and if he's up there in the stats, like top 10 in most of the major stats, then maybe his name is up there. But I don't think he has any chance of winning it over Lamar or Wilson just because of his stats.
Yeah, looking at that MVP race right now, I think the two guys are obviously Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, and I think you can start to throw Mahomes back in there as well, and obviously
yeah, Mahomes too.
Yeah, all four. I think those four guys are the clear quarterbacks that really still have a shot at the award, and there hasn't been many MVP races like this in a long time, where you've got so many guys that can just come up and get it, and it's kind of the ring is still there to grab. So. But look, I think Lamar definitely has taken the front runner spot right now, as opposed to Russell Wilson, who's kind of had it for most of this year. After Russell Wilson's pick in that San Francisco 49ers game, I think that soured a lot of people's thoughts on how he's been so far this year. And in a big moment like that, he couldn't come through, although they did end up winning the game in overtime. I really do think that Lamar Jackson, his ability, like we said, to both run the ball at a very, efficient rate, and then obviously throw the ball, which is what a lot of people had questions about him about. So he's just been playing on another level. And Russell Wilson, coming off a not so great performance in a win, and then the bye, he's kind of fallen off a little bit in terms of people's rankings. But he can come right back this week if he goes into Philly and gets a big win and has a good game.
Yeah, like you mentioned, so much of it has to do with recency bias, and coming off of a not so great game from Wilson kind of let Lamar unseat him at the top of the odds list. But it also has to do with Lamar just taking the league by storm. He is their entire offense. There's no offense in the league that is like the Ravens offense. He does everything in that offense. The entire offense runs through him. And if you take it by definition, most valuable player, then it's got to be Lamar.
They kind of have 3 phases to their offense alone. Obviously the run and the pass, but Lamar has his own run game. It's like a separate. It's like you have to watch the quarterback run the ball, and he can do it on every single play. It really is like a third phase of the offense. I mean, something teams have to account for: the run, the pass, and then the Lamar run. It's really incredible what he's done. And this is, obviously another guy, Kyler Murray, has kind of also done something similar to this. But the younger quarterbacks in this league, and you see it in college football each and every week, guys like Tua Tagovailoa and others are really they've been runners. Baker Mayfield is another one. Johnny Manziel going years back, it was kind of the start of it. That's the new quarterback in college, and the college system is about that three-phase offense of being able to run the ball, throw the ball, and run it with the quarterback. So I think that's definitely the new wave of quarterbacks that are going to be entering the league over the course of the next decade and possibly more. And we have one of the quarterbacks that used to be able to run it really well, obviously not to the level of Lamar Jackson and others, but obviously Rodgers, his ability to escape the pocket and throw on the run is like no other. And obviously he's one of the best pocket passers in league history. So we still have a great quarterback, obviously.
I think that has a lot to do with more naturally athletic people are playing the quarterback position, where it used to be if you're athletic, you're a wide receiver. Like, go back to the 2018 pre-draft process when people were saying Lamar should convert to a wide receiver. Like, that was just kind of the norm. If you're athletic, you play a skill position. But I think it's becoming normalized where you can be a quarterback. You can develop an arm. You can be accurate and athletic. And it's a new era of quarterbacking. We're seeing it in the NFL and in college, and it's definitely fun to watch. But the thing with Lamar is Lamar Jackson versus teams who he's already faced is 1-3. So I think that has to do a lot with the first time he plays an opponent. It's a lot of shock value. They don't know how to contain this. They've never seen anything like this. But I think defensive coordinators are able to figure it out. They're able to watch back the tape, figure out how to stop him, because we've seen that. We saw it last year in the playoffs versus the Chargers. They were able to shut Lamar down. So I don't know how far the Ravens will go in the playoffs, and I don't know if that'll affect his MVP chances, because I think the MVP voting is based, or they try to base it just off the regular season. But that's definitely something to watch as well.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this episode of the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. You can follow all of us on Instagram at Packer Posts, at All Day Packers, and at Lambeau Leapers. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Pack Go.